Greetings, children of the screen. Your friendly neighborhood nerd scum here once again, coming at you today from the awesome Sci-Fi Factory Burleson. If you live in the Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area, definitely give them a check out. They have 4 locations in that general area, and they are all super cool with tons of games, comic books, action figures, and other collectibles. Definitely worth giving a check out. So anyway, tonight I'm coming at you with another installment of Nerd Needs. This is going to be focusing on my top 3 DC-centric crossover nerd needs. Crossovers that, like, I don't think they'll actually ever happen, and I don't necessarily have like an artist or a specific story in mind for all of them, but they're just things that deep down inside my nerd soul, I just need them. I just need it. Maybe some of you can relate. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into my top 3 DC-centric crossover nerd needs. Number 3, Booster Gold and Doctor Who. Booster Gold was created by Dan Jurgens and first appeared in Booster Gold #1 in 1986. Doctor Who was originally debuted on television in 1963, and not long after that, there was a comic series following the escapades of the Doctor. Alright guys, so for this one, I don't necessarily have like a specific story arc in mind, mostly just because there are so many possibilities and so many options. You could literally do anything with these 2 characters, especially because with it being an out-of-continuity story for both franchises, you could use any of the iterations of the Doctor, and there are actually several different kind of versions or incarnations of Booster Gold you could also use. Specifically, the version of Booster Gold that we usually see turn up in animation and in one-off stories is much more akin to the way Dan Jurgens originally presented him in the 80s, where he's kind of more of a comedic relief character and he's kind of fun and zany. So if we're going to go with that version of the character, I would much rather have maybe Matt Smith's iteration of the Doctor, because I feel that those 2 could just have like a fun, zany adventure. But if you wanted to tell kind of a more interesting or a more like deeper kind of sci-fi or emotional story, I think you'd probably be better off going with either the David Tennant era Doctor or maybe even the Peter Capaldi. Or, you know, you could always do a thing where you have multiple Doctors. There's a long-standing history of that, not only in the Doctor Who show, but also in the comics. And pretty much anything you could do crossing over any versions of these characters, I'm totally down. Number 2, Harlequin and Tank Girl. Tank Girl was created by Jamie Hewlett and Alan Martin, first appearing in the publication Deadline in 1988. Harlequin was created by Paul Dini and Bruce Timm, first appearing on the Batman the Animated Series in 1992, and not long after that appearing in the comic books as well. And while these 2 totally kick-ass ladies made their initial debuts very differently, their modern-day incarnations are almost indistinguishable. Now, I personally am an old-school Harley Quinn fan and would love to see a version of Tank Girl crossing over with that version of the character. However, there's actually 2 different stories you could tell with this crossover that could be really interesting. One, like I said, is you take the modern-day iteration of Harley Quinn and you basically send Tank Girl to Coney Island, where basically people start mistaking Tank Girl for Harley, and from there crazy hijinks ensues. Or the version that I personally would prefer to see is basically we have Tank Girl end up in Harley Quinn era Gotham, like classic Harley Quinn era Gotham, and basically her just doing her Tank Girl thing, causing chaos and mayhem, causing all of the villains in Gotham to believe that this is a new villain on the scene who's so insane that even the Joker is a bit intimidated by her. But because of that, and some other crazy run-ins, she ends up meeting up with Harley and they become fast friends. And hell, you know what, you could even probably get Poison Ivy in there, and maybe Catwoman, and do like a whole like Tank Girl meets up with the Gotham City Sirens and then like takes over, like not takes over, but takes on the criminal underworld who think that Tank Girl's trying to take over, whenever in fact she's just doing her Tank Girl thing, you know what I'm saying? Either way, either one of those stories would be super fun. Alright guys, and my number 1 DC-centric crossover nerd need is The Question and Spider Jerusalem. The Question was created by Steve Ditko and first appeared in Charleston Comics Blue Beetle #1 in 1967. Spider Jerusalem was created by Warren Ellis and Derek Robertson, first appearing in Transmetropolitan #1 in 1997. These 2 hard-nosed, take-no-crap investigators who represent complete opposite ends of the spectrum. Once again, obviously, there's going to have to be some kind of universe-jumping, time-jumping shenanigans involved here, but considering the things that go on in both the DC universe as well as the Transmetropolitan universe, I don't really see that being a problem. But in the end, what I see is the Question getting taken to the Transmetropolitan universe, where he will basically have to team up with Spider Jerusalem, who is already in the process of working on a case which basically holds the key to the question getting sent back home. And then through that, they will have to team up together, and obviously we'll get all kinds of crazy things as like kind of in the vein of like an 80s buddy cop movie, but added with like this harder sci-fi noir element. So it's like an 80s buddy cop Blade Runner, if you can imagine that. That's what I'm seeing in my mind, of course, with all the crazy antics of Spider Jerusalem. After all, I mean, who doesn't want to watch the like super straight-edged, super zen The Question have to deal with like Spider Jerusalem's like crazy manic depressant drug fueled BS, right? I mean, in the end of the day, like it needs to have a core of a good, solid mystery story, but there's a lot of room for fun and improvisation all around it where you could just do kind of crazy, wacky things that you normally wouldn't get to do with either of those characters. Although, in fairness, Spider Jerusalem, one of the reasons why he makes this spot is because he's a character that his world is so crazy. It's kind of like Judge Dredd. You can kind of do anything with that character. Right on, guys. So those are my top 3 DC-centric crossover nerd needs. And I tell you, it was really hard to narrow it down to 3 because with all the characters DC has and all the characters that are out there, there are just like infinite and endless numbers of combinations. In fact, like not long ago I did a live stream with Comics Boom and Comics Joe where we discussed our like top choices for potential crossovers with the like Alien and Predator characters, like within themselves and within like all the other like franchises. We talked about all the ones that there've already been. For instance, Batman vs. Predator, which they have here at Sci-Fi Factory. If you are looking for a copy, definitely come pick it up. Yeah, like we talked about that and all the other stories they've done, and then all the ones we wanted to see. But there are so many out there. I know that you've had your own just like needs. Just like you're like, oh, I love these 2 characters so much. I need this to be a thing that exists. So let me know down in the comments below, what are your top DC-centric crossover nerd needs? And if you like this video, please leave a like and share it with some friends. That's more important now than ever with everything YouTube is changing up on small YouTubers like myself. And if you're not subscribed, then please subscribe and hit that little bell so you can get updates on all the cool content I'll have coming out in the future. Thank you very, very much, children of the screen. I hope you all have a good one. Nerd Scum, out.